Okay, folks, thanks for listening today. I'm really excited to have Angela Salamanca on the phone. Angela's in Raleigh, and if you listen to Van Nalenza's podcast from a couple of months ago, he mentioned Angela as being a wonderful mentor to him, and I've just heard so many great things about you, Angela. So thank you very much for taking the time today and for being with us.
So it's an honor.
So as we always kind of do with these things, just tell me, kind of give me a little bit about your backstory. I did some research. I know you were born in South America and you were there until after high school, and you wound up coming to the States, and we're fortunate to have you here in North Carolina, and your uncle was here, but it sounds like we got lucky. So, but tell me a little bit about that story and kind of, just sort of your background in the restaurant business.
So I think I'm the one that got lucky, For some reason, I graduated from high school in 1993, which seems like forever ago. And I applied to college, and I did not get in. So Mom and Dad decided that it would be a good idea for me to come to the States and take 6 months before I could apply to college again. And then my Uncle Carlos was here, and he had this restaurant. So I said, well, why don't you just go and hang out with him? You can practice your English, and then you can come back and take the test again, and then you just start the rest of your life. And Bogota in the late 1990s was a really difficult city to be in. It was very, very violent. There was a lot of stuff going on with the drug cartels. But because that's what you are, you kind of not question it, right? That's what you do. It's just part of your naturals. So I didn't really even realize how lucky I was with that trip, coming here to see Carlos, and for what I thought it was going to be a 6-month sort of like break. So I started working with him right away. I was 17. This is the first time I'm away from Mom and Dad, especially Mom, because I grew up with a single mother, and she was very involved and very controlling. So being here away from her and away from home was really interesting. It really literally opened my eyes to the possibilities of what could happen for me in life. So I started working with him. I think I still remembered. So Carlos owns this very famous restaurant in Raleigh called Dos Taquitos. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, and it's been there a long time and has been very successful for a long time.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's been open for, I think, 24 years. And he has been the base of a lot of things that have happened from that restaurant with our family in terms of businesses. But Carlos is a very generous human being. So he's always taking people in from our family to help them out, whether it's for a temporary period of time or to start a partnership or a new venture. He's always been very generous. He's a very generous person. I venture to say he's the most generous person in our family. So I remember that I was here with another teenager that was coming from Colombia as well that had another relation to the family. And we started working at Dos Taquitos. And I remember the first Friday we ever worked, they sent us to run food in the kitchen. And it was such chaos in my eyes, As a 17-year-old, it was such chaos to see all this food running in and out of the kitchen in these huge trays. And it was like white noise, but I had never experienced that in my life. So it was really overwhelming, but it was really, really invigorating too. So I worked with him as a runner for about 6 months. And then I became a server in that restaurant. And then through this time, I realized that maybe going back home was not what I wanted to do at 6 months. So I stayed for a year. And then at the year mark, I stayed for another year. And then after that second year, I was like, I'm not going back home. I knew it then. And I think I had a strong enough voice after being here for 2 years to say, I can take care of myself. I'm going to stay. So I did that and never really thought that I was going to start a restaurant on my own. I know I really liked people, and I had a way of connecting with folks. I love food. I love the moments and the experiences that we created at the restaurant. But I wasn't sure, like if this was going to be something that was going to play a role in my life later on, or if it was just a transitional time for me. And then at some point, I decided to go back to school, and I got a major in fine arts and art history at UNC. And I think that time in my life gave me an opportunity to see myself as an artist, and that I really wanted to be creating things in life. So I did a lot of photography and installation work while I was in school. I met a lot of really interesting people. But after I graduated, I couldn't really find anything to do that was inspiring to me. So the opportunities, and I got married through the process and had my first kid. I was working for the city for the Performing Arts Center. And then Carlos said, there is a chance to open up a lunch spot in downtown Raleigh. Do you want to look at it? I think I was 6 months pregnant with my second child. And I said, okay. I knew once I became a mother, I knew I wanted to do something that I could leave a legacy for my kids, in terms of financial stability, because growing up, that was not something that we had with Mom.
Right.
And even though I was married when all of this happened, I felt like we needed to create something that was tangible for the kids. And at that time, we didn't have it. So I think that's what drove me to say to Carlos, yeah, let's go take a look at the spot and see what the possibilities are. And we actually put an offer on the building because we bought the building, and it was denied. They took another offer. I had Anna, and then I think when Anna was 6 months, they came back to us and said, are you guys still interested in the building? So we were in a position to do a better negotiation for the building, and we ended up buying the building and decided that we were going to open this restaurant just for lunch. Little did I know what I had signed up for. So I think the word got out that we were going to open a location for the taquitos in downtown Raleigh. And people started saying, well, you can't just be open for lunch. You need to be open for dinner. So we started revisiting what that would look like. And then Martha came into the picture. Martha was our chef for the first year that the restaurant was open. Martha was from Panama, and she was working with Carlos at the moment, but there wasn't enough creative space for her to be where she was. So bringing her into this new venture seemed like the most fitting for us. And then the other thing that happened as we were under construction was that Carlos reconnected. Carlos is my uncle. He reconnected to his high school sweetheart and decided that he could no longer live without this woman, so he moved back to Colombia.
Oh, my goodness.
So I had all kinds of panic moments because, I had never opened a restaurant before. My youngest one had just turned a year old. I had a 2-year-old. I was 28. And he said, okay, I'm out. I know you can do it. And he left.
Wow.
And,
so he left not only so that you were starting this restaurant, but also he had those taquitos. So were you running that for him when he left?
I had left those taquitos to come to have my child. And then, so yeah, I was not involved with the taquitos. We had another uncle that was working there at the time.
Okay.
So I think he felt like, there was enough structure where he could go, and he did. And to me, that was sort of like the biggest gift, because even though I had no idea what I was doing, it gave me an opportunity. It sort of like created an opportunity. I've always been a believer that necessity is the biggest space for creativity to happen. So I needed to make sure that it worked. So I poured my heart and soul into this project. And I reached out to Ashley, too. She was such an instrumental part of when we first opened, because she was opening pools at the same time. I think we opened in September, and she opened pools in December. So she was very instrumental. She had already had another restaurant, Vin, and she had all this experience, but she was young. I think we're the same age. And she was just so generous with her time and her contacts and her advice. So I felt like, I'm going to reach out to the people that I know, and we're just going to go. We're just going to go to town and make this work. So we did the first year, and then Marta passed away.
So you've got 2 young children. You've figured out how to get this place open.
Yes.
And then a year into it, your chef, a year after you opened, your chef passed away?
Yeah, she had cancer. She had been battling with cancer since she was 18, so this was like an ongoing thing for her. But, she had periods of her life where she had been very, very healthy. And then I think it was 8 months into it, she got really sick. And we were trying to make it work, so she could continue to help and be there. But it was not what was going to happen. So she passed, and we were faced with the decision of what are we going to do, right? She had a sous chef, and it was hard to work with him. I think one of the things that I have learned by working in this industry is that as a Latin American woman, to be taken seriously by a Latin American man, which is a lot of the men that I work with, there's this cultural wall that it's hard for them to cross over. So it was a challenge. It was very challenging there for a while. And then one day he said, I think I'm going to go. And we didn't have a plan. I said, okay, well, if you're going to go, you're going to go, and that's what's so. He came back a week later. He said, no, I don't think I want to go. And I, me being naive, I said, yeah, you can come back. And then, but I said, if you ever do this again, know that you don't have a job, because I'm not going to play this game with you. And sure enough, a week later, he said, I'm leaving. So I remember sitting down with my cousin, Natalia, who worked with me until last year, and said, so this is what's so. Miguel is leaving. What are we going to do? And I said, I have this idea that might work. If you could take over the front of the house, I would take over the kitchen. And I think that we can make it work.
And you've not at this point had experience in the kitchen. Oh, you've not cooked or. I've
never run a kitchen in my life before.
Oh, you never run a kitchen.
I had a lot of creative input into what we were doing, just because I feel like the artist in me was really, really interested in all of that was happening, but not the day-to-day of running a kitchen at all. So she said, I remember talking to various people and kind of like asking for advice and just going with my gut. And we said, yeah, let's do it. I think we can do it. So I took over the kitchen the very next day, and Natalia took over the front of the house. And I've never worked so hard in my life as those first 3 years. But I think that, yes.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. So we just kind of took over, and I started organizing things and putting structures in place and really understanding what is it that we were doing and how we were going to do it and why we were doing it. And I think that's what drove me to work in the kitchen and to make it, to make it work for everybody else. And just this deep sense of commitment to my kids and to the project. So yeah, we started having fun with it, right? I mean, it was a lot of hard work, but it was still a lot of fun. There was a lot of space for creativity for me there, and to really find myself in a place where I could be the leader that I didn't know that I was going to be. And this is, this is going back to, I had no idea that this was going to be a possibility for me when I moved to the States, like finding myself in a position where I could fully take charge and make a difference, even if it was just in the life of the people that were involved in our project at the time.
Let me ask you this. So as an artist, as a creative person, how does that, I guess, what are the pros of having that type of skill set in the restaurant business, and what are the cons, if you will, if there are any?
There are. So somebody just called me the other day. So, you're sort of like a visionary. So I feel like as an artist, I am that. I have all these creative ideas that all kind of like don't have a ceiling for what we can do. But in my team, I've always had integrators, and those are the people that actually get things done with the staff. So I think that's been like my biggest contribution to work, but also it's been my biggest challenge, because I have hundreds of ideas of things that we want to do, but in reality, putting things into practice sometimes is not feasible.
How do you prioritize? I mean, you've got hundreds of ideas. I think a lot of creative people struggle with this, me being one of them. How do you take those ideas, which all seem great and are, but how do you determine which ones are the most important, or how do you prioritize those and put the others on the back burner, or maybe realize some of them are ones that might seem great but you're not going to be able to do?
Well, I mean, I think by creating a space where I have room to speak about the ideas that I have, but I also have people in my team that hold me accountable and kind of like bring me back to the ground by like, hey, this is amazing, but maybe we can't do this right now because of these and these and that, and this is sort of like a priority right now. So I feel like for me, being able to be the boss has been great, because I can speak what's in my mind and what's in my heart, but having a team that holds me accountable for what's actually possible in real life has been what's made us effective and efficient in what we're doing, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a ton of sense. What about, tell me more about, so Carlos leaves. You've probably got, it probably was scary. But and here you are, and you've got all this going on in your personal life with a child and one on the way, and that is an amazing amount to take on. But you said that it was also, it turned out to be a gift from him. Tell me more about that, because that's a very inspiring way to look at something where you could have said, gosh, he's left me in the lurch. How am I going to do this? But you turned it into, this frees me to pursue this with passion and vision and gusto. So
and in my own way, right? Well, I feel like the restaurant would be a totally different place if he had been an active partner in the creation of what we do. Just our everyday day-to-day structures of how we run a shift, on how we keep inventory or how we track, schedules, like just basic things. Like I've been able to create that from what I think is best, but and really having the opportunity to own my mistakes instead of having just to be, and I think that was the biggest challenge of the restaurant at the beginning, because we named the restaurant Dos Taquitos Centro, because we kind of wanted to piggyback on Dos Taquitos' popularity, but our restaurant was nothing like Dos Taquitos. I think that in the States, and I didn't know this with such clarity, there's this franchise understanding, right? Like everything that is called the same should look the same, smell the same, be the same. And if it's not, then you are not, what is the word? You are deceiving.
Well, you're being,
right?
Right, and people don't like yeah, exactly.
It's inconsistent, right?
Right.
So, like our menu was totally different. We've gone against something that all Mexican restaurants do in the United States, which is giving free chips and salsa. And I said, we're not doing that. And we're not doing that because the experience, and I don't know if this is something that you have experienced, but I feel like a lot of people, when they think of eating Mexican food, it's always this extra sense of fullness because you have like overindulged in chips and salsa, and then you don't really enjoy your meal. You don't give yourself an opportunity to have space for dessert or enjoy another cocktail. So it was a really, really intentional decision, and man, it's backlash like you have no idea because people are selfish. But we use higher quality ingredients in everything that we do. So for us, it was not something that we could just like write off. So little things and big things that were decisions that I made that were different. It was just a different restaurant because he wasn't here, because it was my opportunity to create this. So I think that as an artist, like that was great, right?
I totally agree. Do you think, Angela, that it's interesting, people that follow a trend or conventional wisdom because that's how everybody else does it, then you can't create anything that's unique that way, right? Like, so because Mexican restaurants all have chips and salsa that are free, people expect that, but then you kind of get to the point where you expect every Mexican restaurant to sort of be the same because of that in many ways. And so I think that's fantastic that you had the courage to trust your instincts. And does part of that get you? I guess that goes back to your point that it was a gift from Carlos. He said, you got this. It kind of giving you the confidence, like, hey, just go trust yourself. You can do this, without relying on him as not a crutch. But then again, a lot of times when we're working with somebody that has experience, we kind of defer to them and we hold ourselves back. So he enabled you to not hold yourself back. Is really what that was about, and it gave you the confidence to create something unique and special and not follow convention, which has enabled you to create something that is your own and is not like everybody else's restaurant. Is that, okay.
I would say that's a fair assessment. And it's so much easier and lighter to see it like now that it's 8 years in the making than at the time. I don't think at the time I even had space to even like being able to recognize it as that, because we were just doing, right? Just doing. So yeah, it's been an interesting full ride for sure.
Tell me about, I want to go back to, I made a note, you mentioned earlier that you bought your building. Was that something that, was that a make or break thing, kind of a deal for you, or why was that important to you?
I don't think that it was important to me. I think what I knew coming into this partnership with Carlos was that I want to be able to be a partner. I will work with you. I have nothing to give him but my work, but whatever deal that we do, I want to make sure that I'm a 50-50 partner with you, just in base of securing the future of the kids and my family. So I knew it was a possibility of investment. I think at the time it was easier for us to buy the property. We had a little bit more resources available to be able to do that. Now I see the value of having made that decision.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Especially with the way that. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, and I've realized that a lot of things, big things that have happened in my life have kind of happened out of chance, like moving to the States, a lot of relationships that I've been myself, a lot of people that I've related myself with, like sort of like by chance, but by believing in that, or kind of like sticking to that, there's all these possibilities that have come to that. And I feel like the restaurant and the building, it's also on that same theme, It was sort of like by chance, but I really, truly believed in it and put myself into it. And now, we have this property downtown Raleigh, that if nothing else, it was a good investment for us. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I asked that because, and not everybody that's getting into the business, certainly by any means, can they buy the building they want to go into. Sometimes it's just not in the equation. But I always hear, a lot of folks talk about when they don't own their building, that lease negotiations a lot of times can get very tricky and can be in part the reasons some places wind up having to close their doors upon
Well, Carlos is a perfect opportunity. He's a perfect example of that. He's Dos Taquitos, who was in business for the longest time. It still is, but they had to move locations after 23 years in business because of a dispute there with the landlord that could not be resolved. And that has a huge impact on your business.
Yeah, it really is, and you'll never have to face that, which is awesome. So you use a lot of like I read on your website, you use a lot of as many local fresh or organic ingredients as you can. Is that right?
So yes, and this is something else that we're really, really getting back to. I think the restaurant was really the concept of the restaurant was really how can we make this cuisine work with as many local and as many organic ingredients in the area. And we've really danced around that for many years. How do we make this work in terms of cost, in terms of being profitable, in terms of making this cuisine work, and how I have learned to do that in my journey as becoming the main cook of this venture. And creating those relationships with people. How do we make this sustainable for work? So that's sort of like an ongoing evaluation that we're always doing. Like, how can we do this more effectively? How can we, is this something that we could do all the time? It's something that we realize that we can. So we like to feature a lot of our special events with the relationships that we have with farmers in our local agriculture. And I always continuously, revising our menu so we can add those things in there. But that's been one of my biggest learning curves as a person that manages the kitchen of this restaurant.
How do you mentor other folks? I mean, I know, Van came to you and years ago and got advice from you, and you've developed a good relationship with him, and I'm sure you two keep each other inspired, but do you have young folks that come to you asking for advice and mentorship? And if so, what is your style with that?
I feel like my first line of mentorship, it's my staff. And I'm really intentional with everything that we do. So we really make a difference in the life of the people that work for us. And I think through the years, it's been really beautiful to see that we are actually making a little bit of a difference in the life of the people that work for us, or in the life of the people that no longer work for us, but worked for us at some point, and how that's always come back in beautiful stories and beautiful sharings from them or other people. So I feel like I am more of a mentor to those folks than anything else. You know, I reach out to my community. We do a lot of work with the Boys and Girls Club, and in turn, we have now people that used to be in their after-school program work for us. But this is actually an ongoing conversation that we have with somebody like Van. And it's how do we create spaces where there is possibility for confidence in young folks. And I think that a lot about that because of I have two young girls. So I'm always, trying to figure out, okay, what is this thing that they need to learn so they can be amazing in whatever it is that they decide that they want to do. Not successful, but just amazing, so they can really, really be happy and thrive. And I think after many, many, many conversations, that's sort of like being the conclusion. It's like if we have a space where they can build confidence, they can really take on anything. And how do we create that space for them?
Well, I love that. What is it that you hope, and I think based on what you just said, I probably know where you're going to go with this, but what is it that you hope that people that come through that are a part of Centro, part of your team for some period of time and move along, what do you hope they take with them?
I think that, to not be afraid, to take what's there and run with it, to honor your talents, to learn how to work as a team, and realize that there's really a lot of power in letting other people be part of your dream or be part of your journey, like active part of your journey, how to have an intentional every day when it comes to, the shift, when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to everything, just how to be intentional about who you are in the world or who you are for your team or who you are for your family. Because it makes a difference. Like everything that you do and everything that you say to anybody in the world makes a difference. And sometimes that difference can really change their lives. And it could be something little, or it could be something huge. But just making sure that the difference that you're making, and I hate to be saying things like good or bad, but like a real difference, where you can move somebody into action so they can do whatever it is that they want to do. Move to another country or pursue a different career or really take on the possibility of recreating their family relationships with their mother and their father. I don't know. But like having an intentional life, I feel like that's what's made the biggest difference in the way that we work.
Well, you clearly have lived up to that, and I'm sure you've served as a great role model and example of living that way, which, we learn from what people tell us and we learn from what people around us do, and you've clearly lived that out. So, Angela, I'm inspired. I am excited to have a chance next time. I'm in Charlotte, but I get to Raleigh fairly often. My dad lives in Cary, so you can bet I'll be
in the infamous
walking
Cary.
in your yeah. I'll be walking in your door sometime here. I'll let you know when I'm coming. But I really cannot thank you enough for taking the time to do this, and I appreciate it. And your story is amazing, and I wish you just all kinds of continued success and happiness and joy with your family and your team and your business, and just really appreciate you this with me and the folks listening today.
Absolutely. I'm so honored that you asked. And, just the possibility of sharing. It makes it so real and so powerful just to kind of like go back and name what's happened.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's been an amazing journey, and all the best for continued success to you, Angela. And thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I really appreciate you doing this. So I'll be in touch. I will be back in Raleigh within the next couple of months, and I'm gonna give you a ring. I'd love to come by and enjoy a meal with you.
And we can show you the bar upstairs. We just opened this amazing bar. And
and you're
really
upstairs,
fun.
right? Yes.
Yeah, we just
right.
did that. And that in itself was a whole other journey. A lot of lessons.
Gosh.
But it turned out into this really beautiful space. So I'm really, really excited to see, like, I feel like this opened, like this cracked something else that we can do. So I'm really excited to be able to, like, see that. So you need to come and see it. It's really beautiful.
I can't wait to check it out. Congratulations on that. I had read that you were doing it, so that's awesome. Well, congratulations. I'm sure
it'll be a year in March since we opened the bar.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you run, and I hope that you're able to get the oatmeal done before we did this, because it's probably cold by now.
I did.
So,
I
okay,
did.
good. Okay, good.
I tugged it.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Angela. Have a good one.
Absolutely. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.